Prime Minister, thank you. Welcome, Prime Minister, to this activity, the AXDOC live social media engagement from the Grenada Trade Center. I now pass you on to our host, Senator Katisha Williams, who would lead this session.
Hello, good evening to our listeners and viewers on radio stations CR-FM, Real FM, We FM, City Sound FM, and also on our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp. And a special good afternoon to our Prime Minister, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. This is Ask Doc. It's a program which gives you the opportunity to interact with your Prime Minister one-on-one. During the program, we'll be fielding questions from social media and asking them directly to the Prime Minister, and you will hear the answers from his mouth. So I hope everyone has their questions ready, their concerns ready. We are in the middle of an election period with elections coming up next week, Thursday, on the 23rd of June. So I'm sure that you have many questions and concerns that you are eager to ask the Prime Minister. So I'm going to start off with the first one here from social media. Mr. Prime Minister, are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Yes. This is a very youthful audience, and I bet there'll be a tough audience. So the first question, Prime Minister, is, Doc, we are on the home stretch of this election campaign. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good, except the voice. I've been talking 3 and 4 meetings a night, so other than that, physically, I'm doing fine. I spent an hour and a half in the gym this morning, and then almost 90 minutes on the treadmill at home. So I have great physical feeling right now, but the voice is the only hindrance. But let me just say a special and good afternoon to all my young brothers and sisters. This is a very extremely important event for me. In fact, I hope we can do this not just an election time. I think it's something that we should do on a regular basis. The Prime Minister interacting with our young brothers and sisters in the country. I think it's something I look forward to. So hopefully after this afternoon, after Thursday, I expect to be able to be in a position to deal with an event like this.
Yes, I believe this is the second time we're having Ask Doc. So hopefully after Thursday we can make that part of your regular program, your regular
It's important. I think it's very important.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. Doc, most of us here know you as a politician. We are unaware of the details of your journey and the values that molded you to be who you are today. We would like to hear from you about your story and what contributed to your success.
It will take a long time for me to do that, but
try to condense
just to give you
possible.
a little tidbits of it. As many of you may know, I was born in the village of Brizan in St. George's, which was really a stony village with very few homes of the quality like it is today. It was mainly very small detached homes. In fact, the pillars were all stones, basically, in most people's houses at the time. We had no pipe-borne water in the community, no electricity, or telephone, forget that. And it was a very poor village, basically. And I had a strong grandmother who was a fish lady, who was like an icon in the fish market in St. George's called Sasa. That was her name. And so we grew up, a lot of us children grew up in that home. Several children in a two-bedroom house. Two-room house, not two-bedroom, sorry. So I grew up in a poor environment, basically. So I knew what it was like to struggle. I knew what it was like to be without some of the nice things that you see you are able to get now. It was not available then. And of course, I had a very strong father and mother. One of the things that I believe that is probably different today, most of our homes in that period were manned by both a strong mother and father. And while we had little material things, there was a strong bond of friendship and love in those homes, because as you know, material things does not necessarily give you love. Love is probably far more important than the material things. So we had very strong parents guiding us. So, and of course, the whip was available for us whenever we didn't do what was supposed to be done. So that, then I moved we moved, my father was from Happy Hill, my mother's from Brizan. So we moved to Happy Hill, where I still live since that particular period. So it was a tough beginning, but beginning of a period of love. The community was together. You don't go, like I see these days, kids would be cursing people older than them. You couldn't do that. If someone reported that you passed them in the street, an older person, and you didn't say good morning, and they report to your home, you will get the whip, so to speak. So that was but there was a lot of love in the family and in the community. In other words, that, like Hillary Clinton said, it takes a village to grow a child. That was really what it was in the period in which I was growing up. I don't think that exists today at this time.
Okay, thank you, PM. You mentioned your humble beginnings, and this really flows into the next question that we have. The question is, what was the atmosphere like for, I think they're meant to say, what were the opportunities available for young people at the time you were growing up as compared to now under the NMP?
Well, certainly we did not have the amenities that you have now. I mean, clearly you, as I mentioned, the basic services like telephone, electricity, water, we had to go to the standpipe for water. And, you know, when you hear, say, December comes around, forget water in the standpipe. So it was 5, 6, up to maybe May, you might get some water. And there was one pipe that come because it was down in the valley. So the crowd used to be there from 4 o'clock in the morning. And most of the little fights that I had growing up was fighting for water. Because you would be there 3 o'clock, 3:30, and a man comes in and pushing pan before, below the pipe. Well, fight start. So that was the kind of environment that we grew up in. And so we didn't have basic services, and we didn't even have, I love cricket. I love sports. We had no playing field. And in our community, we used to have make-up fields during the dry season, and the rainfall and match up the pitch, we have to build it back. That was the period we were growing up. And strange enough, in the village I grew up, Happy Hill, we ended up at one time we had about 5 players on the national team, and we didn't have a playing field. And I ended up at 16 years representing Grenada. Traveling for the first time when I was in Form 6 at Presentation College. So that was some of the things that we grew up with. I mean, the sea was the place for all of us. The sea activities, whether it's playing football, pitching marbles, doing rounders. I don't know many of you know what called rounders. I don't see young people doing that these days, but boys and girls played it. Playing cricket on the beach. That's how you got to learn a lot of the things that you grew up with. But one thing I could tell you, our parents, while they were not educated, they insisted, somehow they had the vision that education was crucial. So you dare not miss a day in school for one reason, or any reason whatsoever. So there was a strong emphasis on education. And they themselves had little opportunities. But I do also want to say, while you have thousands or hundreds of students getting the secondary education, those days you have maybe something like 14 under 12 scholarships and about 8 or 10, can't remember the exact number, it was very small, under 14. And when you pass 14 years, you're done beat. There was no opportunity for secondary school. So could you imagine only about 20 young people could have got to secondary school? And you know the society, there was a lot of, there was, in some extent, there was a lot of class consciousness in the society. So people come from more affordable environment, more affordable homes, were better equipped to be able to get those scholarships. Because those of us coming from communities like where I come from, there was no library, there was no radio station, so you didn't have this sort of knowledge to compete. And when you look at the fact that the examination to get into secondary school, you had English grammar, English composition, general paper, and arithmetic. Now tell me, if you come from a poor village where there no radio, no newspaper, no library, you're dead in English grammar, you're dead in composition, and you have no general paper, you don't know what's going on in the world. So the scholarship exams are very biased against poor people children. So I ended up coming first in the island in arithmetic, and I nearly didn't get entrance to a secondary school. So, because I didn't general paper, when they talk about, I remember a specific question, I always remember, that Russia put up a man in the moon. I said, no, that can't be God moon. He can't go there. But yes, Russia did put somebody up in the moon. Dew falls forms. I say, no, it falls. Because every time I get up in the morning, I hear my mother telling my father, the dew fall last night. But dew don't fall, dew forms. Those of you understand the science, right? But that's what the level it tells you something. So you guys are fortunate that you have a lot of opportunities. When I tell my son sometimes about the things that I went through, he said, Daddy, tell me another Tim Tim. Because he sounds like Tim Tim relative to what's going on here today. Yes.
And Prime Minister, largely because of education, you're able to achieve a great level of success in your private and professional life. So considering that, why did you decide to enter politics?
Well, politics was, I would say, entered me. Okay. I didn't enter politics. I give you that story because, as I told you, I was one of the national cricketers at the time. As growing up, when I played cricket at 16 for Grenada, and therefore I was the North Island cricket, and I was a teacher at the secondary school, Presentation College. So I was seen as an upcoming young man with some talent, and of course I did well academically. So I had a combination: sports, education, and my mother would tell you I always had a people's personality, and so on. So after coming from UWI and finishing my bachelor degree in 1972, I was always interested in social issues, never politics directly, but social issues. So I used to speak out against things that I felt was unjust in the society. So, but my family were all strong supporters of Eric Gary, and I loved him as a person, but I couldn't vote, obviously. So I came home in 1971, and I was involved in many things. And because of my criticism of Gary, they were attracted attention. So some people came to me close to the general election and said, well, you always criticize, and we want you to see how you can help us. We're putting forward a team that would be attractive to, and I resisted. And there are several delegations because I said, no, I'm not interested in that. But they sent several persons, I wouldn't call name here today, and would not be there. Some of them are not alive now. And they spoke to me. And my parents' family got involved and insisted that I should do. That's how I got involved. But I made it very clear that in 1972 that I will not. I had a scholarship to do my master's in mathematics and so on. So I told them whether I win or lose, I was going to study. And they said it's not a problem. So that's how because I felt I always wanted to empower myself. And I challenge you young people, and this is what I told Tobias Clement way back in 95, that when he was a senator and had no formal tertiary education, I said to him, I suggest that you don't stay in Parliament. Politics is a dangerous business for persons who do not have serious material opportunities. So I thought you should go out and study, and I would help you. And I did help him to get scholarship and help financially to go and study. And today he's back. So he had empowered himself, and he's a professor at the university, and he entered politics to the point that he became independent politically from me, which is okay. You can't tell people whose side politics to support. Everyone has their own political views. In some countries, you have husband and wife supporting different political parties. You have some families in Grenada in particular. You have the children supporting one side and the mother and father supporting another political party. And that's okay. You don't fight your opponent politically at a personal level. You fight them on issues. And I think this is something that I would always want to tell young people. So to me, Okay, education has to be the key. Guys, don't fool around with that. You miss that opportunity to empower yourself, then you're exposing yourself to all the vagaries of what could happen in your own life, because people will control you instead of you control your own destiny. And I would always suggest that is the key to it. Education, education, education.
A very important and powerful message, and I hope all the young people here today and those listening on social media are taking heed of this message. Okay, Prime Minister, you have contested elections, I think 6 elections now. This is your 7th?
I haven't checked them out.
Somebody can fact check that for me, but I think this is the
84
7th time.
to 84 to 80 to 1990, 1990 to 95, 95 to 2003, that's 3. 2003, 2008, that's 4. 2008, 2013, 5, 13, 8, 6.
2008, you mentioned 2008?
2008, 2003, 2008.
Yes.
That's the 4th. The 5th.
The 5th.
And 2008, 2013.
Is...
No, that's 4. This is the 6th.
This is the 6th, right?
This is the 6th. You see, I haven't been checking. So I have to check it one by one now, on the finger. Right?
So that's over 20 years of political experience. What is significant about this time, and what do you think young people should consider when going to the polls next week?
Well, the first thing, my own view of politics is, as you can see, the policy makers can have a serious impact on your life. So it is difficult to advise anyone not to show interest in politics. Not necessarily your direct involvement, but to be aware of what's taking place, because it can in fact affect your life in a general sense. So if I was going to, as a young man wanting to vote for a party or individual, let's take the individual first. You come to me and you say to me, I want you to support me. Now you could be my best friend. You could be my family. So you say, I want you to vote for me. The first thing I look at is, what are your policies? What are your party's programs? I want to know this. But let's assume the programs are generally good on all sides of the fence. Then I ask you about yourself. Now, if you come to me and tell me, help you to get into parliament so you're going to help me, but all your life you haven't been able to do anything for yourself. So I say, well, how could you want to help me? I have my act generally together, but I want more opportunities. But you have done nothing for yourself. You don't have a job. You haven't been a consistent employee in any particular area. You might have good personality, and that's fine. You have not achieved anything. Educationally, you may not necessarily be at any serious level. I want to know all these things, because when you get there, if you have not achieved anything for yourself yet, the chances are very high that you are going to be thinking of yourself. And if I was in your position, I would say, why not? And I think it's particularly a dangerous thing to give someone, I'm not saying there wouldn't be exceptions there, because some people really don't necessarily look towards material things, period. But we all are material human beings. We are, generally speaking. And therefore the person would want to have something for themselves. And then you put them in government where they're exposed to all sorts of temptations, because you are going to be tempted. I could tell you this. But if you did not empower yourself, and that's why I told Mr. Blaze when he asked me to run that I wanted to go and study, because I didn't want to go into government and see opportunity in front of me. I have nothing. People might tempt me. But when you have your act together, like I did, I went abroad and studied. I got my doctorate. I was in business. I made some resources. And I had connection internationally. I did work with the IMF, the World Bank as consultants. So I was in a position financially to be able to make the sacrifice. So when I was asked to come back home, while not almost every member of my family thought I was crazy to leave Washington where I was doing so well, resign a lucrative position at the university, and come home. And people thought it was crazy. But I felt I was in a position to really protect myself. If the worst case that we didn't get into government, that I'm in a position financially and with my knowledge to be able to earn a livelihood. And I think all young people should be thinking of how you improve yourself. And business is a good place, and that is something you all should be thinking of. And I've seen a lot of young people here with tremendously good ideas that I honestly believe that what we need to do is create the opportunity for them to be able to do what they want to do.
Okay. So, Prime Minister, we have a more technical question here now.
Yeah.
So this one goes, Doc, how has the pandemic and the ongoing war in Ukraine affected our economy? Also, how have you and the team managed to still pay monthly salaries, offer stimulus packages, etc.?
Well, I think the war in Ukraine, and unfortunately, let me say this, I think it's a crazy war. It does not make any sense whatsoever. And I am one who have difficulty watching children being killed innocently. They have nothing to do with the decisions we make as older persons, and they have to face the consequence. Who are fighting the wars in Ukraine, the society and Russia, is young people, 19 years, who have not lived a life. Not the older people. They're not fighting wars, but the older people make decisions that cause them to go fight and get killed, and so on. So that was affected the world. It has certainly made gas prices extremely high. Energy, and you know that almost everything you do in life, energy has a component in that the price of that particular item. So you'll see the cost of energy skyrocket, and you'll see the impact on economies, even in the great United States. You see what is happening, what is causing the president and others to slide politically and otherwise. So that's a war that's affecting everybody, and it's compounded upon COVID-19, where the economies of countries already were sputtering all over the place, and then you have this madness taking place in Europe that is causing so much pain to the world, and so on. So that is a problem. Were we able to pay salaries? Call my young brothers and sisters. When we came into government in 2013, the treasury was literally non-existent. The government before that was selling assets to pay salaries. No, I'm sure I'm not telling you Nancy's story. Yeah. This is well known. No one in that government would deny that, because the evidence is there. So every month they sell a piece of government asset, whether it's building, land, to pay salaries. Now, you and I know, if you have a business and every month you're selling a piece of the business to pay workers, very soon you won't have any business whatsoever. But that's the same thing with government, because government is the biggest business. So when we came into government, we won the election on February 19th. And usually you start making up government pay sheets on the 20th of every month, so that you'll be ready to issue checks at the end of the month. I walked in the government in 19th and appointed myself as Minister of Finance. Yes, I understand the economic aspect, I understand the numbers, but when I saw nothing in the Treasury. So I called on, I gave this story recently to some news media. I called on my friends, because I had a connection regionally. And so I called Pamela Bosessa in Trinidad, who was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And I said, I need your help. I just win an election, but I have no money to pay people. Even if they just vote for me, if I don't pay them, they will start cursing me. Because when people are hungry, they don't think party politics and on a relationship. They think about, they want their money. So, and she asked me how much I wanted, and I told her, well, I might need about 20 million US. And she said, well, give me some time, I have to talk to my cabinet. And within a day, she got back to me and said they were going to give us a soft loan, which we continue to meet. And that's how we were able to pay salaries. But we had to get all our social partners and put the figures in front of them and say to the unions, and say, look, here are the facts. The economy has not been growing. If we don't do something and make sacrifices, all of us, I, as Prime Minister, and my political organization would lose popularity with that small business. But you, as union, will lose a lot of workers, because the economy is not expanding and people are not doing well, government revenues are not good. We were able to keep a lot of the persons employed. Secondly, told the business, we had a partnership with the business unions, the churches were involved from a moral standpoint. And we said to them, well, look, you have to help us to tell business, look, if you don't help make sacrifices and you go doing your own thing because you just want to make profit, in the end you won't make, because the economy won't move forward. So we all agreed on a very serious program of controls in every respect. Government had to not go hiring people, more people into the public service, knowing that they're already bloated. The unions had to agree to not to make excessive demand and wage increases because the money isn't there. And that's how we were able to manage the economy. And we had a relationship with the international community where we said, look, if you do what you have to do, we are going to help you. But if you refuse to make sacrifice, they wouldn't help us. And therefore we got help from the international community and to be able to buffer a lot of the things we are doing and to ensure that the poor people continue to receive the services we give them and to pay senior citizens monthly stipends and so on. And we were able to continue the social programs that was part of the agreement. And that's how we were able to build surpluses. So by the end of every month, where we were running the country on negative resources, in other words, we were borrowing money to pay salaries or selling assets to pay salaries, we were able to have surpluses, savings after we pay salaries. And that savings were accumulated over a period of time. So now when we reached in a position like Ivan, the COVID-19, there was the surpluses there. If we had not made the sacrifices between 2013 and 2018, we would have not been able to pay anybody anything. And probably some cases, like some countries in the region, were paying some people half-month salary, three-quarter month salary, because they didn't have the savings that they can certainly be able to do what they have to do. So that answers the question, why were we able, how come we were able to meet monthly payroll? We never missed a payroll and pay people early. By the 26th, 27th of every month, people are receiving their salaries.
Okay. And, well, Prime Minister, you mentioned, well, you spoke about how you dealt with inheriting an empty treasury, how you were able to keep the economy afloat during the pandemic, etc., and deal with crises generally during your leadership. There is a concern now with the rise in the cost of living. So there is an expectation that things may get a little difficult for us going forward. How does the government plan to tackle this expected rise in the cost of living?
Well, government has already been doing a number of things. The electricity price that you pay for electricity every month is made up of fuel charges and other charges. We have reduced that. So therefore, the government is taking a hit, so to speak, and taxes and what the output the government receives from energy prices in the country. So therefore, electricity prices, to some extent, is subsidized by government. Otherwise, you would see it have been much higher than it is right now. Secondly, for example, gas prices if we allow the gas price to operate on the basis of a formula for gas price, and we did not do anything about it, gas price right now would be about $20, $21 per gallon. But we cap it at 15, which means that every excess is the government has to take the hit, so to speak. So all that is helping. Otherwise, had we allowed the price of gas to be what it is, you would have had tremendous demands from the busmen and from taximen, from truckmen, for increases in charges. That, of course, increases prices. Now, the problem we have is this, and it's something that all of us need to understand, and as young people, you have to know this. We tend to consume too many things from the outside. So when the prices of energy increase out there, and the people put their markup on the prices of items, and we buy it, we have no control over the prices. Now, if we are eating more of our local stuff, then we would be spending less. And the problems that are occurring outside with energy and other activities that increases goods prices will not have been the problem that it is today. But we buy so much foolishness. A lot of it are not good for us. You think corned beef good for you? I'm thinking a tin. Preservatives have to keep that, Preservatives keep that thing in a tin. And if those of you study a little chemistry, tin with oxygen oxidizes, you get stannous oxide. You think that is healthy stuff? No, it's not. There's so much other things that we eat, lunch and meat, and men take all meat from, whether you don't know whether it's cow, horse, cat. You don't know. I'm not saying it is. Don't ever say the Prime Minister say we eating cat. But you don't know, because we weren't at the front line of where these things are happening. And my own view of these things is they send you things that they don't want. I remember they used to have something called keg butter. Those of you old enough, I don't think your parents might have been able to tell you this. And I used to like it, because when you get a hot bread and you get butter and it melt and tastes nice. But to find out later that keg butter was not good for us and clog up your arteries. So they ban it right now publicly. You don't see it. But we had loved it because they sent it to us. But they weren't using it abroad because they knew the damage. And it tells you why we have to depend more on the things we earn. We have a lot of good things here. You go around the country, you see silver sweet. They think that look like ghost bow, but it's sweet. Drying on the tree, falling on the ground, nobody wants it. Right? Even now, young guys and young girls, my brothers and sisters here, when we were growing up, mango couldn't be on the ground. But you passing, we driving and mangoes in the road. Yeah, we still love the mangoes. And these are healthy stuff, they're natural stuff. And we need to start using more because it's about our own health too. So there's so many things we can gain from what we do. So I think it's all these things. That's why I welcome these little chats. I call it a little chat because I wouldn't come here and tell you anything that you want to hear just because I think I want you to vote for me. That's not me. I would tell you what is true, what I believe is true, and it's going to stand the test of time. What I say today, I would say it 5 years from now, 4 years from now. That has been my history. People cannot point that I said something 10 years ago or 3 years ago and look what I'm doing now. If I make a statement based on the facts I had before and it turned out wrong, then I would admit that I was misinformed or I did not have all the facts. And that's okay, because none of us are perfect. We err for different reasons and so on, but not blatantly going out and tell a lie because you want to move somebody in a particular direction. That's not me. That's not the New National Party that I lead at this particular time.
Okay, so far we've been taking questions from social media.
Yes.
But now
I want to hear them.
I know you're looking forward to
Yes,
that,
I want to
Prime
hear them.
Minister.
Yes.
And now we're going to give our audience an opportunity to ask their questions directly to the Prime Minister. I know you have a lot of burning questions, so we have a mic going around. So raise your hand, and my fellow Senator Judd Cadet here will come to you. So we have the lady to the right.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm from St. Patrick's West.
What's the name?
Alicia Fabian from St. Patrick's West.
Good.
Okay. My question is regarding mental health and youth. We are seeing an increasing number of cases of suicide and other mental health issues at the hospital and other agencies like Child Protection Authority that deal with the youth, especially since the pandemic lockdown in 2020. The protocol now states that any report of suicide with children must be reported where they will be admitted to the general hospital for observation and assessment by the psychiatrist. The lone mental health institution on the island only takes admittance of persons 18 years and older, which indicates that there is no mental health facility on the island that caters for the young persons under 18 years and under. We are advocating for the creation of an institution that caters for such needs. Would your administration support and work towards the implementation of such?
Yeah, I think you're raising a very important point. I think we are, as a society, we have not come to terms yet, maybe to the real extent of the solution to the problem of understanding mental health. Because within your own family, you may see certain things happening with a family of yours, but you really don't understand what are the basic reasons for those behavior. Now, maybe if we are better equipped, we might be able to seek intervention, because the mental health professional would not be in every home. You almost have to have a little expert in every home that understands the behavior patterns of human beings and what appear to be abnormal. And therefore reporting it is going to be very crucial. Your teachers in your school will see certain things. I used to teach, and I taught here and I taught in the United States, and sometimes I see a student doing things inconsistent with a behavior pattern. And every school that you had, there was a place where you could refer the child to that, what you call a psychological testing. So because the school provided, we haven't reached that stage yet, and hopefully we should be moving. So I think their weakness is my friend, and there are certain things clearly government needs to invest more. We need to train more people, because all we do is we train more engineers, more doctors, more this, more that. But the fact is, first of all, I grew up in an environment people say, we're training this man to be crazy. That was the perception, because we didn't have an understanding of the seriousness of that particular issue. And therefore, it's something I think we will support, but clearly it involves investment, and we have to be able to be in a position to do precisely this.
Okay, all right. I have one more question to ask
Sure.
you. It's regarding the Imani program, batch 1 to batch 6. What are the plans you have for them after the general election? Most of them, right now, they are not really under the Imani, because, there is a new batch out. So what really are in place for them after the general election?
First of all, I think one of the problems we've had, the Imani program was well thought out in terms of its vision for helping young people. But like everything else you do, my brothers and sisters, anything you plan never really works out 100% the way you think it should. And you always have to look at improving that system. So 2 years was supposed to be the Imani program construct. So I remember well when we started and government was coming to end in 2008. The question was, we felt, well, what would you do with those young people who have not yet obtained a permanent opportunity? I'm not talking a job, who doesn't have a line of opportunity, or he or she could empower himself. And therefore we were promising to do something about it, but the new government came and it promised they're going to raise Imani's salary and give them this. And when they came, they got rid of almost everybody. So we came into government in 2013, and I felt in conscience that we don't want to send these young people home if there were not preparation enough to give them empowerment for those who are interested in performing, because some people mess up on their own will and they can't do much about this. And therefore we decided that we'll keep them. The problem has been the system we operate, bureaucratic, and therefore what has happened is that people have been kept as Imani for 3 years, and no, you're not Imani after 2 years. So the system, if you're working in a government department and 2 years pass and you are needed, then the system should give you a contract and pay you accordingly, not the Imani salary for the services that you deliver. And that dictate has now come from cabinet. So every department, if any young person is sitting in a ministry now, on post coming up, and you are past 2 years and you're providing a service and they say they want you to stay, they have a responsibility and you should demand that you're treated appropriately. So when young people come to me and tell me, Imani, where are you working? Health, education, here. How long? 5 years. I say, stop calling yourself Imani. And whoever calls you Imani, deal with them. Because you're not an Imani anymore. Imani is a 2-year program. So demand that you are paid appropriately for the services that you get. Because you have a lot of people in government on contracts, some doing nothing, and they're getting big salaries. So if you are there in some cases, I know in some cases, some people don't like me and say it, but I'm somebody who talk frankly, even if election is just tomorrow. Some people are in government and it's known, doing nothing and using the money to do their work. And just, that's not fair. And we as government, as leaders, must take responsibility. A lot of times these things are happening and you don't have a clue what's happening under you. You know, but you as young people must stand up for your rights. And I'm saying that here as Prime Minister. So I'm saying what you should do. Don't accept it. Demand your rights. Because I have seen too many people, even in the school system, people teaching classes while some full-time teachers playing in the lunchroom and drawing salaries, and the money child is a girl or boy is working and teaching the class. That's wrong, morally wrong. As Christian people, we cannot feel that it's fair, you know?
Okay, thank you, Prime Minister. We have another question. Please state your name before you ask your question.
Good afternoon, Dr. Wright and Kit Mitchell. My name is Elon James, and my question is today, we are currently in a country where some of our tradition and culture are dying out a bit, specifically on the mainland of Grenada. And we know that tradition and culture is very important in our country and the world. And what do you think, what programs and policies that you think can bring into schools and community to help bring back our culture and tradition on the main stage for the young people? And being that IT is now a part of us, we can help incorporate this culture into our ICT and IT to make it fun for the young people to be a part of, and also help curb cultural lag. So what plans do you think we can do to get back culture and tradition on the main stage of Grenada?
Well, I think the first thing we need, there are a number of people in our country with the passion and knowledge of the history of our culture. I think we need more of them to be involved, because I can talk at my level of all the philosophical thing about culture, but I am not involved directly in it. The people who are actually involved are in a better position to help teach it properly and encourage enthusiasm of that particular different areas of the culture. And I think we have to get more and more of our persons who with that experience and knowledge to be able to impart that knowledge in the classroom and to the students in general and to the society, in the villages and community. I think to some extent we have lost. Look, when we were growing up, unfortunately because we didn't know better, you know, the British and the French had colonized our countries. So we end up speaking English. Excuse me. But when our grandparents used to be speaking, when we come around, they start to speak patois, French, so that we don't know what they're saying. Instead of saying it in front of us so we learn, so I grew up knowing hardly anything. All I know is about Mukale and simple things like that. I don't know anything about French. And when you go to Dominica, you hear Dominicans speaking, well, call it patois, but it's the local, it is French, maybe broken French, as you say, Dominica, and many other countries. So we've lost our culture because we did not teach generations ahead, coming forward, and that's something we have to avoid.
Okay, now we have another question from a young lady. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacy Jelliso, and my question is as follows. What is the metrics used to implement the minimum wage in Grenada? And what is the NNP's government moving forward? What do they have in place for the working single parents as far as housing, wages, salaries, daycare, school for children,
Ooh, that's a lot.
and so on, right? What are some of the things that basically that is in place to assist the single parents?
Okay.
Well, let's accept that the question of wages, increasing wages, is dependent on, clearly inflation is a factor, right? Inflation is a factor when they're looking at variables that determine what level of wage that you give. That is always a factor. The level of development of the society, what is available to people, persons, your comparative salaries of different levels of work is also looked at in coming up with that final form. A number of things that are useful in determining this. But we have to accept a lot of the variables that you mentioned a while ago will be dependent on the resources of the government. The country may wish to do all kinds of stuff, but the final analysis one has to always realize. In fact, I talk to my brothers and sisters in the trade union movement and say to them, look, if I do what you want me to do, then I take care of your workers and the rest of the society will suffer. I cannot forget that I have to see to it that the single mothers, as you just mentioned, my dear sister, they need government. So what kind of program are we implementing? Are we going to pay every public servant a massive increase and to forget, because we don't dig the money down from the ground. It is money that the country earns based on productivity of the country. So I have to balance the equation against the needs of every sector of the society. So single mothers, we are aware that a lot of our men folks are absent when it comes to responsibility. They enjoy the pleasure and they disappear, which is quite unfortunate, you know. But we have a responsibility to. So I say, one of the things I say over and over to young people, look, we are now establishing a different help support system. I believe there are a lot of young people with very good ideas, but they don't have the resources to start a business and a service. The program we're coming up with to give grant support, a $10,000 grant to start you up, and the availability soft loan in the GDB. Now, there are a lot of conditions for getting a loan, and I know that's been a problem. Our job is to try to reduce the conditions as much as possible. But don't forget, a bank is a bank, and you don't just go and give people money just like that. But I think we live in a society that we know one another. My feeling is we could use the historical responsibility of persons as a basis for giving a loan. Sometimes, not always, whether you have land, a paper, whether you have a house, whether you have this. But your character and your credibility is as important as the land paper or something, because there are some people, you won't lend them your money because you know they bad pay. Simple as that. But there are others, you will more than happy to do it because you know they have a sense of responsibility. And you know if they are not able to pay, you know they have a justifiable reason and so on for doing it. So I think we're going to be changing, reducing the condition, not making it a free-for-all, because as Prime Minister, the country's resources have a responsibility to protect it. So I'm not going to say, you just come, sign up, and we're going to give you money because you say you're going to do this. No, it doesn't going to happen that way. So I'm empowering people to start small businesses. Right? I think it's good. I see after COVID-19, even my own constituency, I could tell you this, we had about 2-3 places where you could go and get fruits and vegetables. Since COVID-19, they got about 15 little stalls all over the place. And everyone cropping up every day. They wouldn't be cropping up if they weren't making money. So they have empowered themselves. Some cases, young men come to me looking for weed eater and basic equipment to go and mow lawns. That's a business in itself, you know. You don't have a big set of money to put down to buy a weed eater, so the government makes available opportunities like this so that you will get a small loan, set you ready and do your work. There are a lot of ways I see people selling roast corn. And a gentleman told me, I wouldn't work for nobody because he sells 200-300 corn in a day at $4 and $5 in some cases. And I had a story, and I tested it out during the corn season. Where you know there are certain sections of the society where people are middle income and low and so on. You buy a roast corn in close to, say, in the sugar mill where a lot of middle class people live. It's $5. You go a mile down and you get for $4. You go another mile down, you get it for $3. So people are used to understand the same corn, you know. So I'm saying people can use the ideas, and some of them do extremely well. Selling cane juice. People sell cane juice and they're doing extremely well. They're making a lot more money than those of us who put on that jacket and tie and go to work. And so on. So they're all different things, and our job is to empower people by helping them as much as possible.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take a break from taking questions from the audience. We'll come back to you later, don't worry. We just want to head back to social media and get some more questions from there, okay? So the next question, Prime Minister. Well, you spoke about young people getting involved in agriculture, selling fruits and vegetables and so on. But what is the government's position on agro-processing and fish processing? And does the government have any plans for focusing on that?
It is something that we should do. But remember, if you're going to be investing in an agro-processing plant, it's nice to talk about it. What is practical is you have to realize our economy of scale has to be a factor. Because you're going to produce an item, the energy cost is going to be a major factor. And most of the small businesses fail in our country because the price of energy is too high. And in Trinidad, we wouldn't be able to compete with Trinidad. Because while a manufacturer in Trinidad will pay little or nothing for energy, most of the small businesses fail because the price of energy and other services are too high. And how do you bring that down? It's a problem, because unless you produce those things, it's going to be very difficult to be able to reduce prices, because you're buying it from outside. And the price of it, what you receive, has to be factored in the services that you deliver. So it is a fundamental issue as far as this whole question of helping people and helping them to cope with some of the difficulties that people meet. So I think these are some of the challenges that we have to confront.
Okay, so we're going to take a left turn and tackle the issue of pension. So this question is, the issue of pension will affect some of us in the future. You have pledged your commitment to fixing this old age issue. Where are we now on this issue?
Well, we had been meeting what we perceived to the law said, then the pension of workers who are retired. In fact, we had a top-up we are giving people who retired up to 70% of what they earn, a combination with the NIS. But that has proven, based on the law, 1958 law, the judges said that was incorrect. But remember, it was not the NNP that removed the pension law. You know, sometimes I hear some people who were involved in the revolution cursing our government for not doing something that they themselves caused. But that's life. When you're in something, whether or not you were there initially, you have to pay the price for dealing with the problem. So we accept that. What we have said is, since we have the big backlog of people, some of them die already. A lot of them would have died already. But you still have to pay them, and you have to pay their estates. So it might be their grandchildren or some family member who's responsible for their assets. So we still have to pay them individually and so on. So that number, to get the value of all these persons, you have to be accurate. So it will cost us hundreds of millions of dollars. So to make a commitment to pay that and you don't have the money, so you're not going to stop your education system, delivery of services to a student, to pay $400, $500, $600 million in pension overnight. And you won't go and, I hear this nonsense, let's borrow the money. I mean, give me a break. So you borrow it, don't you have to pay it back? How are you going to pay it back if you don't have the necessary economic spin-offs to raise the money that you get? And then you still have to provide services. Are you going to stop fixing the roads? Are you going to stop providing services to culture and to sport, to all forms of activities, and to the farmers, subsidizing aspects of farming? Are you going to cut government off for those who are now here and needing the service, and pay all this money? That doesn't make sense. That sounds like cheap politics to me. And I don't know Grenadians will fall for this, because Grenadians know better. It's just not realistic to do so. And I will not make that promise. Somebody wants to vote against me for that, then that's their right. But I know in the end I will prove right, because anyone win an election on those bases will find themselves in easy trouble, very quick trouble. And that doesn't make any sense. So I'm saying, what we said is, look, we will agree right now to those who are retiring this year in the public service. So if somebody reaches the age of 60 and the pension, we will pay the pension value. So we have been able to crunch those numbers, and we have an idea how many of those persons would be retiring between now and the end of the year, between January this year and the end of the year. And we'll factor in a new budget in December for next year's payment for those who retire. At the same time, we're trying to work the numbers out for the persons who were retired before, years before, since from 1983 onwards. There's a lot of people. And we won't promise to pay all of them everything one time. We'll have to work out a payment schedule where we may pay maybe at 20% or initially. And we'll have to schedule over several years to be able to meet that responsibility. So that's a plan of action. We're reaching close to getting, we have different groups that have done work on the numbers and come up with different. I want to have the exact thing. So when I speak, I would not have to go back and say, well, I left out this and I left out that. So it's a lot of research taking place. The IMF was helping us. The World Bank has been helping, doing research and the data, because we have a responsibility to the international community to ensure that we manage our affairs appropriately, so that when we ask for serious soft loans or grant money we can get because they have the resources we don't have.
Okay. Well, Prime Minister, you preempted the next question that I had for you, which was how feasible is the opposition's plan to borrow to pay the pensions?
Cheap
but
politics.
I
Cheap
think
politics.
you answered that quite clearly.
Cheap politics. It's just very cheap politics. I mean, if you fall for that, well, I can't blame him. Because when you're out and you're in, and you don't know what's going on, you never work in the public service one day, you never been involved in any serious social activities that demand an understanding of those issues, you're talking loose. You can promise anything. So if somebody falls for that, it's not the person that promising it, it's the victim himself. Because we all have to have common sense to understand what is realistic and what is not realistic. And I had that conversation with somebody this morning. I said, well, wouldn't the man be irresponsible? Yes, he's irresponsible, but those who are accepting it and voting for it is also have a problem. They must be held also responsible for just falling for a man just talking or a woman just talking and promising everything. You know, let's face it, when a boy trying to quote a girl, he tell her all kind of nice thing, you know. I used to do that too. All of us, right? Same thing, the girls will tell you all kind of nice story about, then you find out later half them stories are not necessarily true. So you have to use your common sense. When you're listening to people, you got to judge what songs right, what songs as just nice sounding statements and words, and which may not necessarily be real.
Okay. And we have some other questions questioning some of the propositions of the opposition. And one of them is the proposal to pay salaries twice a month. How feasible do you think that is?
Well, first of all, it could happen, you know, but you have to restructure the whole governmental system. It's not going to happen just like that. For example, we get our resources from the Inland Revenue Department, the 20th of every month, because people pay up. The businesses have to pay from the returns. So you're asking business to start pay you daily or weekly or something like that. So they have to re-rotate the entire system. So it's not going to be just government. The entire systems of government operations will have to. So when one is talking without any understanding of the implication. And I'm there inside, so I know it on a daily basis. But these individuals or persons are talking from the outside and making promises, you know, and may not be realistic. So it could happen, but it will take a lot of time and a lot of sacrifices to be able to get done. And you know, we don't have the most productive public service. To get people to do all that work twice a month, you may have to hire additional staff to do so. I said may, and so on. So it is not a simple thing. And sometimes when people speak, it sounds, oh, well, let's like if the money is there, and you're just going to pick it up, second week of the month, and you pay, and you wait at the end of the month, and you take it up again, and pick the other portion, and just pay again. It doesn't happen so. There's a lot more in that, in that finality.
And Prime Minister, you mentioned the public service. There is talk about making everyone, well, from the opposition, about making everyone in the public service permanent workers. How feasible is that, and what are the consequences if that were to happen?
That's a big joke. No, simple. No, it's a joke, because let me tell you this. Grenada public service is defined as really having the numbers are too large for the population. It's always already too large. Now, we went through a retrenchment program in the previous first NNP government of Blaise, where they paid people off to help to reduce the size of the public service. But you have to have a lot of money to pay people off. You have to pay them as if they're 60 years to reduce the size. So sacrifices were made. Now, over the years, we've been doing, we've not been hiring. In other words, we said if 10% leave the public service, we hire 4. So you could get the numbers reduced over a period of time. Now, we were doing this And therefore, because we are, the fiscal rules that we have, that the international community set, that shows when you're governing and you're managing well, to get resources. For example, since 2018, 2013, since we started this program, we got over 125 to 150 million US dollars of soft monies from the World Bank IDA system. Now, that money received, if we had a few countries in the Caribbean because we were meeting that responsibility, that receiving it. Now, that money is a 40-year loan, 0.75% interest rate, less than 1%, and 10 years grace, which means by the first 10 years you have to pay nothing. Now, where you getting that kind of money? You think you go to a bank and tell them, give you an IDA loan? You won't get anything close to this. So we have been able to get this. Now, if you go and do it, you go against that fundamental rules that were set up, right? It means that you won't qualify. So when somebody tells me they want me to do this, like the union, I say, look, are you prepared to suffer? Like I just get a letter from the World Bank that we're getting 67 million EC dollars very soon. You want me to lose this? No, no, Prime Minister. I said, well, that's what you're asking me to do. And I'm not going to do it. I will not do it because overall I would be suffering a lot of people just to satisfy you, and that does not make, you wouldn't be happy after I've done this because I may not be even able to pay you. And then we could get another $67 million before the end of the year if we continue managing ourselves fiscally. So there are rules in the game that we have to say. It's not of what Keith Mitchell wants by himself. I would love to pay everybody twice the salary paying them now. That would be nice, especially election coming. Just give people money. Yes, why not? I'll be the most popular man in town. I walk around town and my hand in the air. But that don't make sense. So when the election over, when I want to run, I got to run from Grenada because I know it's not going to happen.
Prime Minister, just based on your debunking of a lot of these propositions being made by the opposition, how important do you think experience is when you're vying for the top job in this country?
Well, in anything you're doing, colleagues, experience is important. I was a cricketer, and I can tell you the things I thought in playing, I was helped by people who were there before, who understand that step I'm going to take will yield me, will cause me problems in the game. So it's like a business. You don't take an unqualified man who has never really managed a serious business and just put him on the top because he has a good set of degrees and so on. You know, you don't do that. People have to understand the system that you operate. And it takes time. If I am sick, I am not going to some young boy that just come, a girl that just come out of a university with a medical degree to be able to diagnose my problem because he or she has not learned sufficiently. Even if you don't have all the high qualification, but by experience, you trial and error. You go to some doctors, and by the time you say, you're feeling a pain here, he almost knows exactly what's happening to you because he has seen it all. So you have to be understanding. You're going on a plane, and they tell you this pilot is the second time he's in the plane, in the cockpit. So me going there? Not Cypher. Cypher not going there. No, because I won't trust him. So experience, colleagues, not just politics. In anything, experience is a valuable tool in being able to give someone the opportunity to deal with your problems. I think that is absolutely vital. And I honestly believe that I think people sometimes talk nice because talk is cheap. All of us can present the best ideas on paper to sound very good. That's not difficult, especially if you are bright and capable. You could come up with the best ideas, but the question, how are you going to implement it? And where are you getting the resources to do it? Are you hearing when people promise, are you hearing them say how they will get the money? No, you don't hear that. You don't hear that. Simply because, first of all, they don't know because they're never there. And they don't know the possibility exists. So when they reach there, they will say, well, I thought so, but I reached and I realized there is no money. And then you can't blame them because you should have asked them before you go and give them the endorsement. How are you going to do what you're telling me that you want to do? And if you didn't ask them that and you vote for them because you're getting nice wishes, then we have to accept fundamental responsibility for mistakes of our leaders if we allow them to get away with nonsense.
Yes. And thank you, Prime Minister. We're going to go back to the audience now. So let's try to get some people from this side of the room. Okay, remember to state your name and ask your question.
Good afternoon to the doctor.
Please speak up a bit. Speak up a bit. Put the mic closer.
Good afternoon.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
My name is Akisha Williams.
What's
My
the name?
question, Akisha Williams.
Right. From where?
My question to you is...
From where am I there?
Olafachun.
Oh, good. St. Patrick's girl. Right.
You have been talking about $100 million to 100,000 people. We like for you to break it down for us and also explain to the youths how it will benefit us and how it will benefit us.
All right. Don't forget, our population is about 100,000. It's about 110, 115 now. What we say in effect, there are going to be the resources available to be able to empower young people. As an example, small business is one of the way to go, right? So we'll be able to invest. The same point I made a while ago, providing grant support to start your business or creating a soft loan to help you to build a home. When we were growing up as boys and girls, we don't leave mom and dad home until you probably reach about 30 because you were never really at that level of independence. But you know, more and more young people want to move away from home in their early 20s if they are able to stand on their own 2 feet, so to speak. So we have been able to provide a small business loans for you to develop education. That investment in empowering people in the technology so that you'll be able to cope with the jobs of the 21st century. That requires specific training and opportunities. One of the things we've done with the Chancellor of the University, St. George's University, we agree on a program. They are going to be bringing a number of top businesses in the United States. In Silicon Valley, a lot of the technological companies, to bring a section of them here to train and employ Grenadians. Now, when you have that kind of knowledge, you don't have to go to the United States to be able to earn a serious livelihood. Because you can stay here and service a company in Russia or in China or the United States or wherever because of the technological advances in the world. So that is one of the key things we can have. And suppose you are interested in doing something in the area in culture, there will be opportunities for us to provide the resources based on the activity that you're going to be doing. And you have to write up your proper proposal to be able to show that you can implement what you say you're doing. So there are a number of things that you will be able to do. So whether it's training, putting more money into training, more money into education, and diversified form of education, that is, whether it's setting up small businesses, whether it's setting up in agricultural farming. Excuse me. One of the things that I noticed when I traveled abroad, some of the richest people in the United States are farmers, you know. But I grew up, my father was a so-called farmer. But what he was doing was unscientific. He was planting and hoping it'd grow. But science tells you what's possible, this type of soil that you have, the level of services that you have to provide, how much water that's needed for certain plants. Certain areas are good for growing groundnut. Some areas are not good for cabbage. Some areas are very good for potato. Some are not good for potato. And that's all. You have to know all these things. You have science in all these things. Fishermen fishing. We used to go on the rock and just put the bait and hope to catch a fish. But there are scientific methodology for fishing, which make sure that you'll be able to you can be pretty certain when you go out there in certain weather conditions and certain time that your chances are much higher for catching certain type of fish and be able to have a better livelihood. So everything now is based on science, and I think that is something that we have to continue to do.
Okay. Next question. Your name and where you're from.
Good afternoon, Dr. the Right Honorable Kit Mitchell. My name is Zoe Kellys, and I'm from St. Andrews, Northeast. Mr. Prime Minister, we know that there are various programs for the youth, for example, the Empowerment and the Imani program. What I would like to know, what plans do you have for the persons who passes the age of 35?
Well, the small business loan doesn't specify limitation in age. That is something that, so that's one. And in other words, we're encouraging people to set up their own business, right? There are so many areas of services that people can get involved in, and sometimes people don't think, they feel they always have to get a job from working for somebody. But it's always good to think of your own service and be able to employ other persons. In many parts, you see people getting involved in technology. You could set up a own little operation in your village where you could train young people, and you get some help from government to get the computers and help yourself, and you're making a contribution to your society, and at the same time you're providing opportunities and for yourself and your family. And so there's so many things in sports. You know, you can set up a little gym in your community. People are starting to do this, and they do very well because everyone wants to be healthy, especially if you're providing diverse service, not just the equipment, but you have somebody providing health tips to tell you the things you eat, the things that are good for you. And there's so many things that we can do for ourselves and just sitting and waiting for others to employ ourselves. And sometimes you're only servicing other people instead of doing something for yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kanisha Panju from Tivoli, St. Andrews, Northeast. The question that I have today is, what are your plans for adult continuing education, and what opportunities will be given for the youth development outside of the program?
Well, the continuing education has to be a must. I think one of the things the revolution was good at, they had a very organized continuing education program after school. We have not done that sufficiently, and that's an area I think we need to look at more seriously, because sometimes people leave school, but they want to advance themselves, and they may have other interests that they have to spend time on. But if you have organized a proper continuing education program at certain time convenient to them, a lot more persons will get involved. So I think it's something, I believe that's an area that we certainly should want to invest more in, that continuing. And what was the second part of your question?
Judd, the mic.
Just tell me.
The opportunities that will be given to the youth development outside of the program.
No, well, that's what I mentioned. The services that you provide, if you come up with a good project, no matter what your age group is, there might be something zeroing on young people within certain group because of the Imani concept of less than 35. But general programs that has nothing to do with age group, as long as it's a good program that provides service, create jobs, and empower people, we are with you. As a general point.
Okay, one more question from the audience before we return to social media.
Good afternoon, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. I am Alistair G.D. Amada from Fontenoy St. George's, your constituency. And my question, I am a representation of all the creatives in Grenada and by extension the young people. Now, being the first Grenadian to be admitted into Columbia College and receiving part of a scholarship from that college, question, how can you and your team assist me financially in making this goal a reality? And by extension, what is your systematic plan for the implementation of to implement developmental programs and stuff for our creative industry / creatives?
Well, the first thing you mentioned to me was, and you know you've posed this question to me before, so I don't expect a different answer. If one is able to take an initiative to get an opportunity to a college or a university or some training, and there are certain commitments that he or she are not able to meet, then clearly we would look at it. But for me to say, yes, we will provide the support, if everyone does that and the bill come up to be a lot of money, it'll be difficult. So we'll have to see the specific proposal. What are they expecting? Because these schools abroad, they don't charge a little bit of money. You're talking about sometimes thousands of US dollars that's required on a semester basis. And therefore, we'll have to see the specific proposal that you have to be able, and sometimes, to tell you honest truth, because government will not have the resources to support everybody that comes looking for some help. But sometimes we have private sector people who will say, look, you get a private sector friend and say, or ambassador or somebody, say, look, we have this young brother who's done well and he has this opportunity. Government will not be able to, because listen, if government fund one program for one person and another person comes, government can say, I don't have the money. But if we beg a private sector person, an individual, that's a one-to-one relationship. So it's not so for me to make a commitment just like that without the proposal in front of me that says how much it is and what you're talking about, it'd be difficult to do so. Well, as you know, the creative arts, the Ministry of Culture, and I certainly have good programs. There is something that you can go. I can't sit here and tell you all the opportunities that exist there, but certainly I think talking to the Ministry of Sports and Culture, I think you'll be able to get some proper feedback on any plans that you have that interest yourself and and have the resources available within the service to help you.
I admire this young man's persistence. He asked you in private, then he asked you in public.
No, you tried to put me on the spot to see if I'm going to change my answer.
A politician in the making, perhaps.
He's using the power of all his friends to get back on.
Yes. Okay, so we're going back to social media now. We have a question on housing, Prime Minister. Housing is now a concern for the youth. We currently have a few low-income housing around the country. Are there plans to build more low-income housing and middle-income housing, and support first-time homeowners?
Yeah, well, as I said, I think I mentioned before, on Tuesday we'll have the launching of our manifesto. And you will find one of the major planks of our manifesto, coming would be housing, and specific plan for housing for young persons too. All levels would be given opportunities. And the plan is to have a housing scheme in every parish in the country. In addition to other help we're getting from outside, like the Chinese did, we are going to be using some of our own resources. The plan is, let's suppose, for example, we our brother talking about Fontenoy a while ago. We found out that we have a set of flatlands way up in Fontenoy Byway. We're now building a farm roads for all the farmers there because of the interest. It's now ongoing. We found out there enough space for a nice housing scheme to build about 50 houses. Now, in building 50 houses, what you can do is you have a lot of good young builders in the community. You give one builder 6 houses to build, another one get 8 houses to build. And so you're creating jobs, you're empowering people, and at the same time you're creating a tremendous need on social services for housing for the community. That's just an example, but every parish we are going, the housing stock was one area we intend to make an ambitious program, initiative to be able, because we realize that is one of the most serious area of needs. In a recent survey done by a reputable research organization asking about the societal problems, housing was identified as one of #1 area of weakness in the country. It was high up on the list. It was even higher than the issue of unemployment. That tells you something. So we understand the seriousness of the need. Our focus in previous years was more on infrastructure and roads, electricity, telephone, water service, and of course educational development, healthcare, and so on. And that will continue to be a major focus, but we have to point to now the housing stock. And one of the things I want to remind my brothers and sisters here is sometimes we talk about the quality of life of an individual, and we only mention the salary they make, as if that determines, that by itself does not determine the quality of your life. Yes, income is important, but you have the availability of water is part of the quality of your life, the availability of electricity, the availability of communication, right? In other words, basic fundamental services, healthcare, determines the kind of quality of life that you have. So there's so many other variables that combine to make a more healthy lifestyle of an individual or community as a whole.
Okay. Prime Minister, you mentioned healthcare. What is the status of the national health insurance?
It's an issue that we have to deal with. We are proceeding. The virus, 2 years of COVID-19 really hurt us because we had to be spending a lot of money trying for consultation and for doing research to come up with the best system and since COVID-19, the resources had to be switched to taking care of people and preventing people from dying. So we lost 2 years, and then there's an election, and therefore a number of issues, including election activities now, put us in a position that becomes a secondary issue, but we will restart the engine immediately after the general elections. Restart the engine, you like that, right?
Okay, and an important part of health and staying healthy is keeping active.
Yes.
And we all know that you're a sports enthusiast, an exercise enthusiast, and you have invested a considerable amount of time and effort into sports. Why are you so passionate about sports, and how do you see it as a pillar for advancing our youth?
Well, I see sports as an integral part of the development of the human person. I genuinely feel so. I saw how it helped me as an individual. I can tell you this, there used to be this perception, if you excel in a sport, then you can't be, you have to give up some academic pursuit. That's not true. You know, in my A-level form when I went to school, almost every one of us were in A-levels particularly in the science area, physics, chemistry, mathematics, were either representing the school in football or cricket or some major sport. So that's not true. So I honestly believe sport and activities and keeping healthy is important. And that's why I grew up with this. Now, I could say I get this from my mother, really. My mother is now 99, and she still gets up every morning and take a walk. She used to do a lot more walking when she in her 80s. But she still gets up and insists unless the rain is falling, and she takes the walk. When I came home from America in the 80s, she used to be skipping rope in the 70s and 80s in the veranda. Skipping rope. I can't even skip rope now still. She's doing it. So that, she has no arthritis at all. You ask her, are you pain in the body? No, she doesn't have any. Because the bones are given regular exercises. And I was using the example yesterday. We opened the Go Medical Center. I was telling people, look, you could have the best medical centers we had in Go. But that might save you, that won't save you from health problems, you know. It's your own decisions that determine the quality of life you do. Many of us have our vehicles, and we take it to the garage almost every 3 months to get tuned up and to see everything working. But our own bodies, and we spend a lot of money. Get the mechanic shop and cheap. The doctor shop is more cheaper than the doctor mechanic shop is cheaper than the car mechanic shop. But we won't go to the doctor. We won't go and do the checkup. We won't take our blood pressure. And I tell you this, colleagues, we black people have a high propensity to high blood pressure and diseases of that nature, African people. So I have hypertension, and I'm pretty sure most of you in your lifetime will have it. But if you don't monitor it and manage yourself, exercise, eat right, and watch how much you drink and so on, you will become a victim. It's natural. So I'm making all this point to answer the question you asked.
And also wanted to add that Ms. Mitchell is also on the campaign trail. She shows up at...
Yeah. She doesn't mean sometimes
She's
tell her
very
stay
active.
home. No, she's mad if I tell her home. She say, and you say we can't sit down?
All right, so we're returning to the audience. We have the gentleman in red.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Coutin, and I'm from Southwest St. Andrews. Doc, I would like to ask a question on base of weedy farmers. What plans are you have for weedy young people that are doing farming? And could you state the plans that you have? And then my next question is, what is the plans for tourism and health and outreach?
Okay. Well, a good question. The issue is, what are the fundamental problems related to farming for a young person? One, he needs lands. What the Ministry of Agriculture, headed by Brother Peter David, is doing now I tend to find available lands for farming for young people or other persons who are interested in doing productive activity in the agricultural sector. Now, some of the lands may be owned by government, so it's easy for us to deal with, but some might be owned by private people. We'll engage them to provide leases to persons who are interested, and the leases, of course, will have to be legally verified. And so that will give, so availability of lands, that we're working on. The next thing is inputs. The question of resources. I just mentioned the soft business loan and the possibility of grant, depending on the circumstances, where we give you a grant that you don't have to pay back, but the other part of it, a loan that you would have to pay over a period of time. So these are some of the things, and we'll help you with the training, because that's important, because you have a farm, okay, you produce stuff, but you're not managing your business. You know, sometimes people have a shop and they forget the shop is a business. They want somebody come for something, they go in the cash bag, they take something out, and they don't even check what they take out. You know. Now, how are you going to know whether the business is profitable or not? So you have to be able to manage. So managing your operation is going to be important, like the farm we're talking about, right?
Okay. Are you ready with the next question?
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. I am Nathaniel Stafford from St. George's Northeast. I have two questions. So quite a large number of young men are falling through the cracks of society because of many problems and the inability to cope. I know that the Empower program has been designed in assisting helping young men and giving them a second chance, but it is limited. What more do you have in place in reaching our young brothers who seem to be unreachable? And as a result of completing the program, what provisions are made for them to further their education?
Well, I think one of the things one of the weakness in what we are attempting to do is the support structure around the young people. Now, a young man coming from a family where there's strong family bonds will have the support of his parents to help him in developing or managing an idea or business or activities involved in. But a lot of that is the weakness, as I pointed out to me. I had that when I was growing up. But a lot of you young people I know for a fact do not necessarily have the family structure behind you. Some of you do. But we may have to develop a mentoring program where there are others in the community who have been successful and who wants to help young people, because the more help we give our young people, the stronger our society. And the better we are as old persons, when we grow older, the more stability in the society, more peace. And the life we live would be better, would be a much more peaceful one for us. So I think that is an area that we have to work. The mentoring program, I think, is that to be crucial. And as I mentioned before, the working with the different services that we have available, and of course the government initiative, as I mentioned, small business activities and other things that we have, will be also a critical factor in helping young people to empower themselves and to be successful in the operations that they have.
Okay, and gentleman in the green.
Afternoon, Honorable Kit Mitchell. My name is Kieran Joseph, Margaret St. John. I have two questions. The first is on the situation with pension and gratuity, together with the issue of the agriculture as well. But I feel I will start with agriculture when it comes to the lands. First of all, accessible land is a problem to the agriculture system. A lot of farmers want to get in, a lot of people want to get into farming, but accessible land is the problem. And a lot of young people want to get into it. But they may plant a lot, to get to the land is a problem. So what needs to happen? I'm giving a solution, I hope you take it. So, first of all, I'm a farmer as well. So, you have to do roads, plant poles as well, with lights, water going up to the land. That will help develop the value of the land. And that will give the farmers the ability to go to the land. In extension, they will be able to go to the bank whatsoever and get loan and help themselves. That's one problem solved.
So you asked the question and you answered it for Prime Minister. Okay. He's taking notes, by the way. All right. So you have a second part to your question?
Right. I was coming to the pension and gratuity now.
Okay.
With that,
You want me to answer now, Rose?
It's up for you.
You sound like a fella that campaigning now, eh? Anyhow, my friend, clearly, I think if you have the facts, the government has been building and spending enormous amount of money on farm roads and feeder roads. I just mentioned to the brother in Fontenoy, just about 4 or 5 months ago, the farmers came to me as a parliamentary representative and said that they were doing a lot of agricultural activities in that part of Honai. I myself did not even know. I was the representative for 38 years. I didn't know. And they told me they would like me to come up there and walk with them. And we went up there and I saw. I could not believe the amount of production that they were doing. How they were getting the stuff from there to the market, to bring it down to get transport to get the market. I think it was almost a miracle. And I was very sympathetic. There's a lot of Rasta brothers, and I told them, I don't want to make a promise overnight, but I'll get in and check and see what I can do and what help we can get. Well, 4 weeks ago, the road was started, and they are so happy. The farmers are happy. It's going to take a few months to finish. And that's why I mentioned, in addition, if we found out there are a number of spots that we can build for houses. So we decided we're going to put a 50-house unit in that area. So a lot of people, young and not so young persons, will be able to qualify for one of these houses. I'm assuming, of course, they will be able to repay the mortgage for that particular, those houses. So there are so many things. So get into the farm, because I went through this, my brother, look, we had a place called Mondo, and in St. George's up in East. And Mondo, we had to take food, agricultural stuff when the yam season you're on the plant, put a basket of yam on your head, and go all up in the mountain. I thought that was really slave labor, honestly. And then when you come in, they load in your back again to come down with more load. Sometimes when you reach home and you're talking mountains, you're passing through stones, 3, 4, 5 miles. Sometimes when you put on the load, you have to stand up for a few minutes to get back your head because you feel like everything is in one. So I know. I passed through that myself. My parents passed through it. My sisters and brothers passed through it. And so I understand the problem. So you can't expect people. And I told myself, there's no way I'm becoming a farmer. No, I couldn't become a farmer. I see my father suffer. The amount of work he had to do and he couldn't buy a good pants. I would not want to go into this. So if we want people to be involved in agriculture, we have to show them, provide the support system to be able to encourage them, provide incentive for them to be involved. And so that is fundamental. Having access to the roads is absolute. So I say you have to have the farm itself, the lands itself must be available. You have to have access to it, and we provide the necessary support. Now, we can't say we're going to give you everything, because if somebody wants to be involved in something, they have to come up with some contribution, a serious contribution, to be able to be taken seriously. And so that is, roads are absolute. But we have spent a lot of money. The last farm road project that is being built right now is over $100 and something million have been spent right now on farm roads and feeder roads around the country.
Okay, the second part of your question.
Okay, right, it's to do with the health issue, the health plan. Based on what I noticed in the country, we need to take a different route in the health plan. We need to have a national health plan together with a national insurance plan. So therefore, with the health plan combined, whenever you get sick or whatsoever, you will not be depending on the NIS to back up that. You will have the health plan taking up that burden for that. Therefore, you will not be sick for a whole year. No, I'm being realistically. Let's say 30% of the population would not be sick for, let's say, a 5-year period. But they constantly paying the health plan. That money could go to the accumulated funds, and that money could therefore use to get medication, equipment to the health sector, instead of you have to go and get aid. I don't know if you want to take that information as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your suggestion.
In fact, what you are talking about is part of the National Health Insurance plan that the host was speaking about a while ago. You give an aspect of it, and that's why a lot of research has to be done on how to implement what you are pointing out. It's not, as I said before, someone comes with nice ideas. The question is, how are you going to implement it? And that's why it takes a lot of money to do a lot of research work and the consultation necessary to come up with a system that works. A lot of countries went into national health insurance scheme and became a serious problem for the society, because some of the things that happened when they start implementing, they never thought about it. So we have learned, we are learning from experiences of a lot of countries like Bermuda and a number of other countries in the region that implemented national health insurance scheme. So we want to make sure what we do, we dot the I's and cross the T's before we commit ourselves totally to it. Well, that's in the train. Hopefully it will be done before I leave this responsibility, which of course will be within the next 5 years.
Okay, now we have the final question from our in-house audience.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Sharama Sylvester from St. John's. A lot of discussions have taken place as it relates to Grenada's Sustainable Development Plan 2030. So my question is, I heard you mention 100 million for 100,000. So I really want St. John's to get a fair share of the pie.
It will.
You know? So I'm asking in advance, would some discussions or training be put in place for our young people in St. John's, and speaking for us, in St. John's, in terms of developing civil societies, you know? Because I realize in Grenada, on the western zone, we mostly hear about Grenada and so forth. And young people, we are in St. John's, we are talented, we have the skills, we have the drive, we have the talent for the arts, agriculture, wonderful ideas. But we need to come together as a team. You know, if we have at least 5 CSOs in St. John's, you know, and we focus on priority areas, I think we can become a force to be reckoned with. So I'm just asking in advance, Mr. Prime Minister, that we get the fair share of the pie up there. So let me know if you have any plans in place, you and your team. Thank you.
There will be a lot of plans, my dear. But let me make this point. I'm a constituency representative, yeah? And therefore I have interest in every village in my constituency, because of course I have a personal interest besides my own interest in development of people. But with the same representative, who also happened to be the Prime Minister, some villages have surpassed others in terms of development, because the leadership in the community is much stronger in some areas than others. Some village, every time that you do something, is more fight inside with one another than getting something done. Others, there's absolute unity where they work together to achieve a goal for the whole community. So St. John's, the leadership in St. John's had to be crucial. If the communities get together and say, look, we have this idea, because don't expect a representative to be able to bring everybody together to start doing things. People have to have their own initiatives to help. As I always say, as a Prime Minister, I am as good as the cabinet members around me. If the government achieve, I can't take credit by himself. Without them, I wouldn't be. A constituency representative is as strong as the community that he represents. If he doesn't get the support of the community in initiative that he's planning, he's never going to be able to provide the level of success that he wants to do, or he or she wants to do. So I suggest, my friend, any initiative people in St. John's or any part of the country comes up with that requires development of that community will be turned on by the government, as long as the resources are clearly available. Okay?
Okay, thank you. And sadly, we've come to the end of our session today. We have one final question, very fitting question to close off this session, Prime Minister. Doc, I know you may be quitting in a few years, but what would you like your legacy to be? And is there a succession plan for the party?
Well, as I said to people, the one legacy that I would want to be is to be remembered as somebody that genuinely cared for people. That, to me, sums up my life. That most of the things I would have attempted to do because I cared and I wanted to see improvement in people's lives. The success of any child in the country is almost seen as a success of my child. That's how I see it. And the services that help people to develop. When I was a teacher in classroom, whether it's university or in college, what made me feel real good is not the brilliant student in the class, whether I'm there or not, they would have done well. It's those who struggled and I was able to help them to go past to a certain state. That's what gave me the pride. So I want to be remembered as somebody who genuinely loved people. What was the other part of your question? I can't remember. What was it?
Oh, the succession plan.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, yeah, you are asking.
Yes.
No, I will be involved in the succession, and I want to be able to start the process early. My own view is that the person that emerges must genuinely show that they're interested in people. I may not have total control over that succession because it's going to be the people who would have a say. I may identify an individual or two that I believe are probably the best, but my view as a person alone should not be the final aspect of this. The people would have a serious say. So the party would have an important say in the new person, and the people would have a say. In other words, you have to go past the party too. The party voices must be heard, but clearly also, if your party chooses someone because the person has that influence on some of us, and then the person is not popular with the people, the party won't progress. They will not gain electoral victory. In the final analysis, the people are the ones who give you victory. The party initiates, but the people have to endorse. Otherwise, it won't work. So I have seen leaders over the years, been in government for a lot of years, been successful, and they move out from the scene and the party dies because they did not plan sufficiently for new leadership. Some wait until they can hardly walk to give up. That don't make any sense. I hope to want to do it now in a time when I'm healthy and able to function and be effective as a source of information and support. Because I will never be, a person that takes over leadership of the country would never have Keith Mitchell over his back saying do this and do that. He would only hear from me if he or she calls me, because that's my role. He has a right, or she has a right, to run the country as he sees fit, together with his team. And no one outside should be coming and dictating to him or her what policy or program should be done. If I don't like something, I might speak out as an individual, but I would not impose myself on the new leadership. But I want to be involved in the process, and I hope I'll be healthy enough to have the opportunity to do so. So you got to pray for me. Okay?
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Do I have a last point to make?
The last say?
Yeah.
You're asking me to give you permission?
No,
to
yes, I want to know if I
Of
could
course.
say something finally. But
Of
just
course,
to
you
say,
have the final word.
I find this session stimulating. If you notice, I feel very relaxed here with you because I like this conversational type activity. Instead of standing up on a podium and just giving us big speech, I'm here talking with you, listening to you, hearing you. This, to me, is the most effective means of communication between a leader or a manager of business and the constituents that he or she serves. So, thank you very much, friends, and I wish you all the best, and vote right. That's all I can tell you.
So that was the final word from our Prime Minister. Remember, vote right on the 23rd of June. Thank you to all our viewers on social media and to our lively audience here in-house. Thank you. This has been Ask Doc, and hopefully it's not the last Ask Doc. All right, thank you and good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We could do better than that. Give a round of applause for Doc. Thank you.
Just as we are emerging from the global COVID-19 pandemic, fresh challenges lay on the horizon. And with a war in Europe inducing global inflationary pressures and global supply chain issues adding to a complex economic environment, this moment calls for experienced leadership and steady hands. Do not chance the future in these dangerous times. The new National Party has a team built to navigate tough times and to bring the nation to safer waters. Vote NNP. Safer hands.
What really made me get into this business? Well, from since at a younger age, like going to school at McDonald College, I always like to see vehicles looking clean. So, I mean, for me, I have a passion for vehicles. So, like, seeing a vehicle dirty would have been like a turn off to me. So, I started washing vehicles by the side of the road, in which it was very risky. Nearly got run down many times by vehicles, but I kept pressing. Went to Trinidad for some time and lived, and had the opportunity of working at a car wash in Trinidad. And the feedback from the Trinidadians, I mean, it was great. So I came back to Grenada and I said, you know what? If that is something I'm good in and that is a skill set that I possess, why not go ahead and make a life of it and put an investment into it? So I was fortunate to be a participant of the Youth Biz, in which I undergo some training in business lab, business management and finance. I was eligible in writing my own business plan, get it submitted, and it was approved. So I got a loan from GDB, in which I erected a structure, bought my supplies, and I could thankfully and fully say that I'm an owner, an employer, and running my own business. So, as you know, to all the youths outside there who think that there isn't any hope or there isn't nothing, trust me, there is a lot. Put your skill set, have a positive mindset. Whatever you put your mind to in this life, you can and will achieve it. You just have to have the perseverance, the right attitude, God by your side, and go at it. So, I want to say, whatever opportunity comes in this life, take it. Don't take life for granted. As we say, live every day like that is your last. So when an opportunity comes knocking on the door like I did, I grab it by the two hands, and here I am today, feeling proud of myself. What really made me get into this business? Well, from since at a younger age, like going to school.
Are you ready? If you love this country now, show me your hands.
Grenada has taken the first steps towards staying in safer hands.
Show me your hands, safer hands.
All 15 new National Party candidates, members of a tried and tested team, have now been duly nominated. Grenada gets ready for the next chapter as we move across the bridge to the future that has been built. The new National Party, a team with leaders that are ready for the moment. Vote NNP. Safer hands.
You don't understand. Tell me something. If a crisis hit, who you go call? A pandemic, where you go talk? Which one on your team? Who you go call? Help deal with it.
The Parliamentary Elections Office is making it easier for you to search the voters list. You can now search the voters list online. Type into your internet browser the website address peogrenada.org. Navigate to search voters list. Enter either name and surname or registration number to obtain your registration status. By clicking the select button, an elector can ascertain exactly which polling station they are registered in. A message from the Parliamentary Elections Office.
You're in safer hands with NNP.
Are you ready?
You're in safer hands with NNP.
The Parliamentary Elections Office is making it easier for you to search the voters list. You can now search the voters list online. Type into your internet browser the website address peogrenada.org. Navigate to search voters list. Enter either name and surname or registration number to obtain your registration status. By clicking the select button, an elector can ascertain exactly which polling station they are registered in. A message from the Parliamentary Elections Office.
I am Trisina Charles, Junior Officer at Her Majesty Prison. I was a part of the Imani program in 2015 and was confirmed as an officer in 2017. The Imani program has helped me to develop holistically as an individual, and I would like to encourage all the young persons out there to get a part of the Imani program as we strive to making ourselves better individual in society.
The program is aimed at the holistic development of the nation's youth through career orientation, exposure to work environments, involvement in community development initiative, skill training, and a certified program for self-development. For more information, contact the Imani Secretariat, Grenada Youth Center. Telephone numbers 439-9923 or 439-9943.
My name is Sheldon Hosting, Junior Officer attached at Her Majesty's Prison, the Rehabilitation Unit. I became part of the Imani program in 2013 and confirmed in 2017 as an officer. The Imani program has brought me tremendous benefits through the educational training opportunity and life skills. I'm urging all young people to be part of the Imani program for future success and development.
The program is aimed at the holistic development of the nation's youth through career orientation, exposure to work environments, involvement in community development initiative, skill training, and a certified program for self-development. For more information, contact the Imani Secretariat, Grenada Youth Center, telephone numbers 439-9923 or 439-9943.